from the Heavy D Stories, and today we're going to be doing daily versions with Daniel. I'm not going to try and do it in one breath this time. So, and then we're going to bring the Bible, and then we're going to be doing this verses, and then we're going to be reading the two towers. That begins joy. Make sure to smash the like button. Bite the subscribe button. And
hit it.
And
hug the bell.
Break the bell.
Hug. To never miss another video.
Break the bell, never miss another video. There should be like a, instead of it dinging, it should be like a.
What? Hello, and now for Devotions with Daniel. I see you back there. Okay. The touch of the master. Is today the 5th?
Yes.
Okay. Jesus put out his hand and touched him. Matthew 8:3. In this book, How to Really Love Your Child, Dr. Ross Campbell extols the power of touch. Hugging is important, of course, but so is patting your children on the back, gently poking them on the ribs, tussling their hair, and appropriately roughhousing with them or giving high fives. One of the ways parents can convey love for their children is by appropriate physical contact. That's true for us all. The next time you read through one of the 4 Gospels, notice how often Jesus touched people. His power and love were conveyed through the touch of the Master's hands. There are few things more loving or affirming than the right physical contact with another human being. We have a biblical warrant through the example of Jesus. Have you hugged your spouse today? Have you given your child a friendly nudge? Have you warmly greeted a friend by an outstretched hand and a hearty handshake?
Yes.
Have you rested your arm around the shoulder of someone needing cheer? Have you given a few pats on the back along the way? Remember, you can't give a hug without receiving one in return. Today, reach out and touch someone. A hug is a handshake from the heart.
Hello, how are you doing today? We are on 2 Samuel chapter 14, and let me begin. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, knew that the king's heart went out to Absalom, and Joab sent to Tekoa and brought from there a wise woman and said to her, "Pretend to be a mourner and put on mourning garments. Do not anoint yourself with oil, but behave like a woman who has been mourning many days for the dead. Go to the king and speak thus to him." So Joab put the words in her mouth. When the woman of Tekoa came to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and paid homage and said, "Save me, O king." And the king said to her, "What is your trouble?" She answered, "Alas, I am a widow, my husband is dead, and your servant had 2 sons, and they quarreled with one another in the field. There was no one to separate them, and one struck the other and killed him. And now the whole clan has risen against your servant, and they say, 'Give up the man who struck his brother, that we may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed.' And so they would destroy the heir also. Thus they would quench my coal that is left, and leave to my husband neither name nor remnant on the face of the earth." Then the king said to the woman, "Go to your house, and I will give orders concerning you." And the woman of Tekoa said to the king, "On me be the guilt, my lord the king, and on my father's house let the king and his throne be guiltless." The king said, "If anyone says anything to you, bring him to me, and he shall never touch you again." Then she said, "Please let the king involve the Lord your God, that the avenger of blood kill no more, and my son be not destroyed." He said, as the Lord lives, not one hair of your son shall fall to the ground." Then the woman said, "Please let your servant speak a word to my lord the king." He said, "Speak." And the woman said, "Why then have you planned such a thing against the people of God? For in giving this decision the king convicts himself, inasmuch as the king does not bring his banished one home again. We must all die. We are like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. But God will not take away life, and he devises means so that the banished one will not remain an outcast. Now I have come to say this to my lord the king, because the people have made me afraid. And your servant thought, I will speak to the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his servant. For the king will hear and deliver the servant from the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together from the heritage of God. And your servant thought, the word of my lord the king will set me at rest, for my lord the king is like the angel of God to discern good and evil. The Lord your God be with you. Then the king answered the woman, Do not hide from me anything I ask you. And the woman said, Let my lord the king speak. The king said, Is the hand of Joab with you in all this? The woman answered and said, As surely as you live, my lord the king, one cannot turn to the right hand or to the left from anything that my lord the king has said. It was your servant Joab who commanded me. It was he who put all these words in the mouth of your servant, in order to change the course of things your servant Joab did. But my lord has wisdom like the wisdom of the angel of God, to know all things that are on the earth. Then the king said to Joab, Behold, now I grant this. Go, bring back the young man Absalom. And Joab fell on his face to the ground and paid homage and blessed the king. And Joab said, Today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, my lord the king, in that the king has granted the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, Let him dwell apart in his own house. He is not to come into my presence. So Absalom lived apart in his own house, and did not come into the king's presence. Now in all Israel there was no one so much to be praised for his handsome appearance as Absalom. From the sole of his feet to the crown of his head there was no blemish in him. And when he cut the hair of his head, for the end of every year he used to cut it, when it was heavy on him, he cut it. He weighed the hair of his head 200 shekels by the king's weight. There were born to Absalom 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was a beautiful woman. So Absalom lived 2 full years in Jerusalem without coming into the king's presence. Then Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but Joab would not come to him. And he sent a second time, but Joab would not come. Then he said to his servants, See, Joab's field is next to mine, and he has barley there. Go and set it on fire. So Absalom's servants set the field on fire. Then Joab arose and went to Absalom at his house and said to him, Why have your servants set my field on fire? Absalom answered Joab, Behold, I sent word to you, Come here, that I may send you to the king, to ask, Why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me to be there still. Now therefore let me go into the presence of the king, and if there is guilt in me, let him put me to death. Then Joab went to the king and told him, and he summoned Absalom. So he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. And that is the end of chapter 14. So, we are now on, I believe it's chapter 6 of the Two Towers, book 2, which is actually Lord of the Rings, book 4. If you're keeping track of all that, the chapter is called The Forbidden Pool. As we said yesterday, the first word is woke, but before woke, Frodo's name is mentioned. So, in the last chapter, Faramir had a nice conversation with Frodo and Sam told Faramir everything there was to know about the ring, and Frodo said, "Yep, that is what we're doing, and we're going to Mount Doom so that we can destroy it." And Faramir said, "Ah, not so fast." And then he took out his sword and he cut the hobbits in two right in the middle so that he could easily get to their pockets and pull the ring from Frodo. And that is what happened yesterday. There's nobody here to contradict me, so it must be true.
On, Dad.
Oh, here's Kimberly. Just a minute. Kimberly's going to... JJ said that he actually killed him from top to bottom. So, okay, so that's maybe even worse. Here's Kimberly to say how it really happened.
Honestly, Dad, the one chapter I thought you wouldn't kill them in. So they made friends with Faramir. They told him...
They get to the mountain, the more they die.
Come on, JJ. They told him a little bit about the ring and why they're near Mordor, because, I mean, honestly, these two hobbits, all the way up from the Shire, all the way down at Mordor, that is a bit suspicious and everything, so they told him a little bit, but, Faramir, he didn't even want to see the ring because after he heard what happened to Boromir, at least a little bit of it. And honestly, there were a few reports about a creature, aka I bet it's Gollum, who was following them. And I'm going to hand it off to Dad, who's going to read.
Alrighty.
I am Dad.
Okay, we can stop making noises now. Alrighty then. So I got it wrong again. Somebody needs to take that microphone away from him. Alright, so this is chapter 6, the Forbidden Pool, and everything was closer to like what Kimberly said than what I said. And let me begin. This is chapter 6. Frodo woke to find Faramir bending over him. For a second, old fears seized him, and he sat up and shrank away. "There is nothing to fear," said Faramir. "Is it morning already?" said Frodo, yawning. "Not yet, but night is drawing to an end, and the full moon is setting. Will you come and see it? Also, there is a matter on which I desire your counsel. I am sorry to rouse you from sleep, but will you come?" "I will," said Frodo, rising and shivering a little as he left the warm blanket and pelts. It seemed cold in the fireless cave. The noise of water was loud in the stillness. The noise of paper is loud in the room. He put on his cloak and followed Faramir. Sorry, that wasn't in the story. Sam, waking suddenly by some instinct of watchfulness, saw first his master's empty bed and leapt to his feet. Then he saw two dark figures, Frodo and a man, framed against the archway, which was now filled with a pale white light. He hurried after them, past rows of men sleeping on mattresses along the wall. As he went by the cave mouth, he saw that the curtain was now become a dazzling veil of silk and pearls and silver thread, melting icicles of moonlight. But he did not pause to admire it, and turning aside, he followed his master through the narrow doorway in the wall of the cave. They went first along a black passage, then up many wet steps, and so came to a small flat landing cut in the stone and lit by the pale sky, gleaming high above through a long, deep shaft. From here, two flights of steps led, one going on, as it seemed, up on to the high bank of the stream, the other turning away to the left. This they followed. It wound its way up like a turret stair. At last they came out of the stony darkness and looked about. They were on a wide, flat rock without rail or parapet. Wow. At their right, eastward, the torrent fell, splashing over many terraces, and then, pouring down a steep race, it filled a smooth-hewn channel with a dark force of water, flecked with foam, and curling and rushing almost at their feet, it plunged sheer over the edge that yawned upon their left. A man stood there near the brink, silent, gazing down. Frodo turned to watch the sleek necks of the water as they curved and dived. Then he lifted his eyes and gazed far away. The world was quiet and cold, as if dawn were near. Far off in the west, the full moon was sinking, round and white. Pale mist shimmered in the great vale below, a wide gulf of silver fume beneath which rolled the cool night waters of the Anduin. A black darkness loomed beyond, and in it glinted here and there, cold, sharp, remote, white as the teeth of ghosts, the peaks of Ered Nimrais, the white mountains of the realm of Gondor, tipped, with everlasting snow. Maybe they're ripped with snow also. I'm not sure. For a while Frodo stood there on the high stone, and a shiver ran through him, wondering if anywhere in the vastness of the Nightlands his old companions walked or slept, or lay dead shrouded in mist. Why was he brought here out of forgetful sleep? Sam was eager for an answer to the same question, and could not refrain himself from muttering for his master's ear alone as he thought. "It's a fine view, no doubt, Mr. Frodo, but chilly to the heart, not to mention the bones. What's going on?" Faramir heard and answered. "Moonset over Gondor, fair Ithil, as he goes from Middle-earth, glances upon the white locks of old Mindolluin. It is worth a few shivers, but that is not what I brought you to see. Though as for you, Samwise, you were not brought, and do not pay the penalty of your watchfulness. A draught of wine shall amend it. Come, look now." He stepped up beside the silent sentinel on the dark edge, and Frodo followed. Sam hung back. He already felt insecure enough on this high, wet platform. Faramir and Frodo looked down. Far below them they saw the white waters pour into a foaming bowl and then swirled darkly about a deep oval basin in the rocks, until they found their way out again through a narrow gate and flowed away, fuming and chattering, into calmer and more level reaches. The moonlight still slanted down to the fall's foot and gleamed on the ripples of the basin. Presently Frodo was aware of a small dark thing on the near bank, but even as he looked at it, it dived and vanished just beyond the boil and bubble of the fall, cleaving the black water as neatly as an arrow or an edgewise stone. Faramir turned to the man at his side. "Now what would you say that it is, Unborn, a squirrel or a kingfisher? Are there black kingfishers in the night pools of Mirkwood?" "'Tis not a bird, whatever else it be," answered Unborn. "It has 4 limbs, and dives man-wise. A pretty mastery of the craft it shows, too. What is it at? Seeking a way up behind the curtain to our hidings? It seems we are discovered at last. I have my bow here, and I have posted other archers, nigh as good marksmen as myself, on either bank. We wait only for your command to shoot, Captain." "Shall we shoot?" said Faramir, turning quickly to Frodo. Frodo did not answer for a moment. Then, "No," he said. "No, I beg you not to." If Sam had dared, he would have said yes, quicker and louder. He could not see, but he guessed well enough from their words what they were looking at. "You know, then, what this thing is," said Faramir. "Come, now you have seen, tell me why it should be spared. In all our words together you have not once spoken of your gangrel companion, and I let him be for the time. He could wait till he was caught and brought before me. I sent my keenest huntsman to seek him, but he slipped them, and they had no sight of him until now, save Unborn here, once at dusk yester evening. But now he has done worse trespass than only to go coney snaring in the uplands. He has dared to come to Henneth Anun, and his life is forfeit. I marvel at the creature, so secret and so sly as he, to come sporting in the pool before our very window. Does he think that men sleep without watching all night? Why does he do so? Why does he so? There are two answers, I think, said Frodo. For one, he knows little of men, and sly though he is, your refuge is so hidden that perhaps he does not know that men are concealed here. For another, I think he is allured here by a mastering desire stronger than his caution. He is lured here, you say, said Faramir in a low voice. Does he, then, know of your burden? Indeed, yes. He bore it himself for many years. He bore it? Said Faramir, breathing sharply in his wonder. This matter winds itself ever in new riddles. Then he is pursuing it. Maybe. It is precious to him, but I did not speak of that. What then does the creature seek? Fish, said Frodo. Look. They peered down at the dark pool. A little black head appeared at the far end of the basin, just out of the deep shadow of the rocks. There was a brief silver glint and a swirl of tiny ripples. It swam to the side, and then, with marvelous agility, a frog-like creature climbed out of the water and up the bank. At once it sat down and began to gnaw at the small silver thing that glinted as it turned. The last rays of the moon were now falling behind the stony wall at the pool's end. Faramir laughed softly. Fish, he said. It is a less perilous hunger, or maybe not. Fish from the pool of Henneth Anun may cost him all he has to give. Now I have him in the arrow point, said Onborn. Shall I not shoot, Captain? For coming unbidden to this place, death is our law. Wait, Onborn, said Faramir. This is a harder matter than it seems. What have you to say now, Frodo? Why should we spare? The creature is wretched and hungry, said Frodo, and unaware of his danger. And Gandalf, your Mithrandir, he would have bidden you not to slay him for that reason, and for others. He forbade the elves to do so. I do not know clearly why, and of what I guess I cannot speak openly out here, but this creature is in some way bound up with my errand. Until you found us and took us, he was my guide. Your guide, said Faramir. The matter becomes even stranger. I would do much for you, Frodo, but this I cannot grant, to let this sly wanderer go free at his own will from here, to join you later if it please him, or to be caught by orcs and tell all he knows under threat of pain. He must be slain or taken. Slain if he be not taken very swiftly. But how can this slippery thing of many guises be caught save by a feathered shaft? A feathered shaft being, of course, an
arrow.
An arrow, good. Let me go down quietly to him, said Frodo. You may keep your bows bent and shoot me, at least, if I fail. I shall not run away. Go then, and be swift, said Faramir. If he comes off alive, he should be your faithful servant for the rest of his unhappy days. Lead Frodo down to the bank, Onborn, and go softly. The thing has a nose and ears. Give me your bow. Onborn grunted and led the way down the winding stair to the landing, and then up the other stair, until at last they came to a narrow opening shrouded with thick bushes. Passing silently through, Frodo found himself on the top of the southern bank above the pool. It was now dark, and the falls were pale and gray, reflecting only the lingering moonlight of the western sky. He could not see Gollum. He went forward a short way, and Onborn came softly behind him. Go on, he breathed in Frodo's ear. Have a care to your right. If you fall in the pool, then no one but your fishing friend can help you. And forget not that there are bowmen near at hand, though you may not see them. Frodo crept forward, using his hands Gollum-like to feel his way and to steady himself. The rocks were for the most part flat and smooth, but slippery. He halted, listening. At first he could hear no sound but the unceasing rush of the fall behind him. Then presently he heard, not far ahead, a hissing murmur. Fishes! Nice fishes! White face has vanished, my precious. At last, yes. Now we can eat fishes in pieces. It actually says in peace, and I said in pieces, which, I'm not sure he actually ate the fish in pieces. I do add the is sometimes in these words because it just sounds more Gollum-like. Anyway, not in peace, Precious, for Precious is lost. Yes, lost. Dirty hobbits, nasty hobbits, gone and left us Gollum, and Precious is gone. Only poor Smeagol all alone. No Precious, nasty men, they'll take it, steal my Precious. Thieves, we hates them. Fishes, nice fishes, makes us strong, makes eyes bright, fingers tight, yes. Throttle them, Precious, throttle them all, yes, if we gets chances. Nice fishes, nice fishes. So it went on, almost as unceasing as the waterfall, only interrupted by a faint noise of slavering and gurgling. Frodo shivered, listening with pity and disgust. He wished it would stop, and that he never need hear that voice again. Onborn was not far behind. He could creep back and ask him to get the huntsmen to shoot. They would probably get close enough while Gollum was gorging and off his guard. Only one true shot, and Frodo would be rid of the miserable voice forever. But no, Gollum had a claim on him now. The servant has a claim on the master for service, even service in fear. They would have foundered in the dead marshes but for Gollum. Frodo knew it too, somehow, quite clearly, that Gandalf would not have wished it. Smeagol, he said softly. Fishes, nice fishes, said the voice. Smeagol, he said a little louder. The voice stopped. Smeagol, Master has come to look for you. Master is here. Come, Smeagol. There was no answer but a soft hiss and of intaken breath. Come, Smeagol, said Frodo. We are in danger. Men will kill you if they find you here. Come quickly if you wish to escape death. Come to Master. No, said the voice. Not nice, Master. Leaves poor Smeagol and goes with new friends. Master can wait. Smeagol hasn't finished. There's no time, said Frodo. Bring the fishes with you. Come. No, must finish fishes. Smeagol, said Frodo desperately. Precious will be angry. I shall take Precious, and I shall say, make him swallow the bones and choke. Never taste fish again. Come, Precious is waiting. There was a sharp hiss. Presently, out of the darkness, Gollum came crawling on all fours, like an erring dog called to heel. He had a half-eaten fish in his mouth and another in his hand. He came close to Frodo, almost nose to nose, and sniffed at him. His pale eyes were shining. Then he took the fish out of his mouth and stood up. Nice, Master, he whispered. Nice hobbits. Come back to poor Smeagol. Poor good Smeagol comes. Now let's go. Go quickly, yes. Through the trees, while the faces are dark. Yes, come, let's go. Yes, we'll go soon, said Frodo, but not at once. I will go with you, as I promised. I promise again, but not now. You are not safe yet. I will save you, but you must trust me. We must trust Master, said Gollum doubtfully. Why? Why not go at once? Where is the other one, the cross, rude hobbits? Where is he? Away, up there, said Frodo, pointing to the waterfall. I am not going without him. We must go back to him. His heart sank. This was too much like trickery. He did not really fear that Faramir would allow Gollum to be killed, but he would probably make him prisoner and bind him, and certainly what Frodo did would seem a treachery to the poor, treacherous creature. It would probably be impossible ever to make him understand or believe that Frodo had saved his life in the only way he could. What else could he do to keep faith, as near as might be, with both sides? Come, he said, or the Precious will be angry. We are going back now, up the stream. Go on, You go in front. Gollum crawled along close to the brink for a little way, snuffling and suspicious. Presently he stopped and raised his head. "Something's here," he said. "Not a hobbit." Suddenly he turned back. A green light was flickering in his bulging eyes. "Master! Master!" he hissed. "Wicked! Tricksy! False!" He spat and stretched out his long arms with white snapping fingers. At that moment the great black shape of Anborn loomed up behind him and came down on him. A large strong hand took him in the nape of the neck and pinned him. He twisted round like lightning, all wet and slimy as he was, wriggling like an eel, biting and scratching like a cat. But 2 more men came up out of the shadows. "Hold still," said one, "or we'll stick you as full of pins as a hedgehog. Hold still." Gollum went limp and began to whine and weep. They tied him, none too gently. "Easy, easy," said Frodo. "He has no strength to match you. Don't hurt him, if you can help it. He'll be quieter if you don't, Smeagol. They won't hurt you. I'll go with you, and you shall come to no harm. Not unless they kill me, too. Trust, master." Gollum turned and spat at him. The men picked him up, put a hood over his eyes, and carried him off. Frodo followed them, feeling very wretched. They went through the opening behind the bushes and back down the stairs and passages into the cave. 2 or 3 torches had been lit. Men were stirring. Sam was there, and he gave a queer look at the limp bundle that the men carried. "Got him?" he said to Frodo. "Yes, well, no, I didn't get him. He came to me because he trusted me at first. I am afraid I did not want him tied up like this. I hope it will be all right, but I hate the whole business." "So do I," said Sam, "and nothing will ever be all right where that piece of misery is." A man came and beckoned to the hobbits, and took them to recess at the back of the cave, and they played baseball during recess, and it was a good time, and they... Oh, wait, that's not in the story, sorry. Faramir was sitting there in his chair, and the lamp had been rekindled in its niche above his head. He signaled to them to sit down on the stools beside him. "Bring wine for the guests," he said, "and bring the prisoner to me." The wine was brought, and then Anborn came carrying Gollum. He removed the cover from Gollum's head and set him on his feet, standing behind him to support him. Gollum blinked, hooding the malice of his eyes with their heavy, pale lids. A very miserable creature he looked, dripping and dank, smelling of fish. He still clutched one in his hand. His sparse locks were hanging like rank weed over his bony brows. His nose was sniveling. "Loose us! Loose us!" he cried. "The cord hurts us! Yes, it does! It hurts us, and we've done nothing!" "Nothing," said Faramir, looking at the wretched creature with a keen glance, but without any expression in his face either of anger or pity or wonder. "Nothing? Have you never done anything worthy of binding or of worse punishment? However, that is not for me to judge, happily. But tonight you have come where it is death to come. The fish of this pool are dearly bought." Gollum dropped the fish from his hand. "Don't want fish," he said. "The price is not set on the fish," said Faramir. "Only to come here and look on the pool bears the penalty of death. I have spared you so far at the prayer of Frodo here, who says that of him at least you have deserved some thanks. But you must also satisfy me. What is your name? Whence do you come, and whither do you go? What is your business?" "We're lost, lost," said Gollum. "No name, no business, no precious, nothing, only empty, only hunger. Yes, we are hungry. A few little fishes, nasty, bony little fishes for a poor creature, and they say death. So wise they are, so just, so very just." "Not very wise," said Faramir, "but just, yes, perhaps. As just as our little wisdom allows. Unloose him, Frodo." Faramir took a small nail knife from his belt and handed it to Frodo. Gollum misunderstood the gesture, squealed, and fell down. "Now, Smeagol," said Frodo, "you must trust me. I will not desert you. Answer truthfully if you can. It will do you good, not harm." He cut the cords on Gollum's wrists and ankles and raised him to his feet. "Come hither," said Faramir. "Look at me. Do you know the name of this place? Have you been here before?" Slowly, Gollum raised his eyes and looked unwillingly into Faramir's. All light went out of them, and they stared bleak and pale for a moment into the clear, unwavering eyes of the man of Gondor. There was a still silence. Then Gollum dropped his head and shrank down until he was squatting on the floor, shivering. "We doesn't know, and we doesn't want to know," he whimpered. "Never came here. Never come again." "There are locked doors and closed windows in your mind, and dark rooms behind them," said Faramir. "But in this I judge that you speak the truth. It is well for you. What oath will you swear never to return, and never to leave any living creature hither by word or sign?" "Master knows," said Gollum, with a sidelong glance at Frodo. "Yes, he does. We will promise, Master, if he saves us. We promise to it, yes!" He crawled to Frodo's feet. "Save us, nice Master," he whined. "Smeagol promises to Precious, promises faithfully, never come again, never speak, no, never. No, Precious, no." "Are you satisfied?" said Faramir. "Yes," said Frodo. "At least you must either accept this promise or carry out your law. You will get no more. But I promise that if he came to me, he should not be harmed, and I would not be proved faithless." Faramir sat for a moment and thought. "Very good," he said at last. "I surrender you to your master, to Frodo, son of Drogo. Let him declare what he will do with you." "But, Lord Faramir," said Frodo, bowing, "you have not yet declared your will concerning the said Frodo, and until that is made known, he cannot shape his plans for himself or his companions. Your judgment was postponed until the morning, but that is now at hand." "Then I will declare my doom," said Faramir. "As for you, Frodo, in so far as lies in me under higher authority, I declare you free in the realm of Gondor to the furthest of its ancient bounds, save only that neither you nor any that go with you have leave to come to this place unbidden. This doom shall stand for a year and a day, and then cease, unless you shall before that term comes to Minas Tirith and present yourself to the Lord and Steward of the city. Then I will entreat him to confirm what I have done and to make it lifelong. In the meantime, whomsoever you take under your protection shall be under my protection and under the shield of Gondor. Are you answered?" Frodo bowed low. "I am answered," he said, "and I place myself at your service, if that is of any worth to one so high and honorable." "It is of great worth," said Faramir. "And now do you take this creature, this Smeagol, under your protection?" "I do take Smeagol under my protection," said Frodo. Sam sighed audibly, and not at the courtesies of which, as any hobbit would, he thoroughly approved. Indeed, in the Shire such a matter would have required a great many more words and bows. "Then I say to you," said Faramir, turning to Gollum, "you are under doom of death, but while you walk with Frodo, you are safe for our part. Yet if ever you be found by any man of Gondor astray without him, the doom shall fall, and may death find you swiftly within Gondor or without, if you do not well serve him. Now answer me, whither would you go? You were his guide, he says. Whither were you leading him?" Gollum made no reply. "This I will not have secret," said Faramir. "Answer me, or I will reverse my judgment." Still Gollum did not answer. I will answer for him, said Frodo. He brought me to the Black Gate as I asked, but it was impassable. There is no open gate into the nameless land, said Faramir. Seeing this, we turned aside and came by the southward road, Frodo continued. For he said that there is, or there may be, a path near to Minas Ithil. Minas Morgul, said Faramir. I do not know clearly, said Frodo, but the path climbs, I think, up into the mountains on the northern side of that vale where the old city stands. It goes up to the high cleft and so down to that which is beyond. Do you know the name of that high pass? Said Faramir. No, said Frodo. It is called Cirith Ungol. Gollum hissed sharply and began muttering to himself. Is that not its name? Said Faramir, turning to him. No, said Gollum, and then he squealed as if something had stabbed him. Yes, we heard the name once, but what does the name matter to us? Master says he must get in, so we must try some way. There is no other way to try, no. No other way, said Faramir. How do you know that? And who has explored all the confines of that dark realm? He looked long and thoughtfully at Gollum. Presently he spoke again. Take this creature away, Onborn. Treat him gently, but watch him. And do not you, Smeagol, try to dive into the falls. The rocks have such teeth there as would slay you before your time. Leave us now and take your fish. Onborn went out, and Gollum went cringing before him. The curtain was drawn across the recess. Frodo, I think you do very unwisely in this, said Faramir. I do not think you should go with this creature. It is wicked. No, not altogether wicked, said Frodo. Not wholly, perhaps, said Faramir, but malice eats it like a canker, and the evil is growing. He will lead you to no good. If you will part with him, I will give him safe conduct and guidance to any point on the borders of Gondor that he may name. He would not take it, said Frodo. He would follow after me as he long has done, and I have promised many times to take him under my protection and to go where he led. You would not ask me to break faith with him. No, said Faramir, but my heart would, for it seems less evil to counsel another man to break truth than to do so oneself, especially if one sees a friend bound unwitting to his own harm. But no, if he will go with you, you must now endure him. But I do not think you are holden to go to Cirith Ungol, of which he has told you less than he knows. That much I perceived clearly in his mind. Do not go to Cirith Ungol. Where then shall I go? Said Frodo. Back to the Black Gate and deliver myself up to the guard? What do you know against this place that makes its name so dreadful? Nothing for certain, said Faramir. We of Gondor do not ever pass east of the road in these days, and none of us younger men has ever done so, nor has any of us set foot upon the mountains of shadow. Of them we know only old report and the rumor of bygone days. But there is some dark terror that dwells in the passes above Minas Morgul. If Cirith Ungol is named, old men and masters of lore will blanch and fall silent. The valley of Minas Morgul passed into evil very long ago, and it was a menace and a dread while the banished enemy dwelt yet far away, and Ithilien was still, for the most part, in our keeping. As you know, that city was once a strong place, proud and fair. Minas Ithil, the twin sister of our own city, but it was taken by fell men whom the enemy in his first strength had dominated, and who wandered homeless and masterless after this fall. It is said that their lords were men of Numenor, who had fallen into dark wickedness. To them the enemy had given rings of power, and he had devoured them. Living ghosts they were become, terrible and evil. After his going, they took Minas Ithil and dwelt there, and they filled it, and all the valley about with decay. It seemed empty, and was not so, for a shapeless fear lived within the ruined walls. 9 lords there were, and after the return of their master, which they aided and prepared in secret, they grew strong again. Then the 9 riders issued forth from the gates of horror, and we could not withstand them. Do not approach their citadel. You will be espied. It is a place of sleepless malice, full of lidless eyes. Do not go that way. But where else would you direct me? Said Frodo. You cannot yourself, you say, guide me to the mountains, nor over them, but over the mountains. I am bound if I turn back, refusing the road in its bitter end. Where then shall I go, among elves or men? Would you have me come to Gondor with this thing, the thing that drove your brother mad with desire? What spell would it work in Minas Tirith? Shall there be 2 cities of Minas Morgul grinning at each other across a dead land filled with rottenness? I would not have it so, said Faramir. Then what would you have me do? I know not. Only I would not have you go to death or to torment, and I do not think that Mithrandir would have chosen this way. Yet, since he is gone, I must take such paths as I can find, and there is no time for long searching, said Frodo. It is a hard doom and a hopeless errand, said Faramir, but at least remember my warning. Beware of this guide, Smeagol. He has done murder before now. I read it in him, he sighed. Well, so we meet and part, Frodo, son of Drogo. You have no need of soft words. I do not hope to meet you again on any other day under this sun. But you shall go now, with my blessing upon you and upon all your people. Rest a little while food is prepared for you. I would gladly speak how this creeping Smeagol became possessed of the thing of which we speak, and how he lost it, but I will not trouble you now. If ever beyond hope you return to the lands of the living, and we retell our tales, sitting by the wall of the sun, laughing at old grief, you shall tell me then. Until that time, or some other time beyond the vision of the seeing stones of Numenor, farewell. He rose and bowed low to Frodo, and drawing the curtain, passed out into the cave. And that is the end of chapter 6. That's where we're going to stop for tonight. I know it's a little bit shorter than what we're used to, but that's okay. It's nice to have short chapters once in a while. There is something going on with Cirith Ungol, and we'll have to find out what that is.
Tomorrow. Hopefully.
Actually, I don't think so. The next chapter is... I forgot to say what it was. The next chapter is chapter 7, Journey to the Crossroads. And the first word is and. But Frodo's name is listed before that. But since it's not a word but a proper name...
It's Frodo. I don't care.
Frodo and Sam.
And with all that having been said, I'm going to wish you adieu. And I hope that God blesses you richly and that you have a wonderful evening. Good night.